I've been a police officer for just shy of 32 years. I have never been involved or am aware of a case similar to this.
The tentacles of this disturbing, multifaceted crime reach across Canada and to other parts of the world. I'm going to ask you to pay attention to the details, because you might have some tidbit of information and not even realize that it's relevant and important. If you know you have relevant information, or if you got roped in to some kind of involvement and you don't know what to do about it, you have options, and I'll talk about that later.
I would always say, and it has been since day one, my biggest hope is that she is alive. My greatest fear is that she is not.
It's not too late to share information. It's possible that Elnaz is still alive and you could save her life. And her family deserves answers no matter what. I'm going to take you through the case in chronological order. On the surface, it might look like a domestic violence case, but it is much, much more than that.
There always have been and continue to be a number of potential motives for why this kidnapping took place.
Less than 5 years ago, Elnaz Hajtamiri came to Canada from Iran. She got a job in the import-export business, but left that job to pursue her dream of creating a cake-making business. She started dating this guy, Mohammed Lilo. Turns out he wasn't a good guy. They broke up in October of 2021. It's reported that he made threats to her, and she ended up calling York Regional Police because Lilo showed up at her Richmond Hill condo. Elnaz took her car in to be serviced. Mechanics discovered 2 tracking devices under her car. Around December 6th or 9th, Lilo contacted a company called Investigations Plus Limited. He had them put Elnaz under surveillance and report back to him. On December 20th, 2021, 2 men attacked Elnaz in the parking garage of her Richmond Hill condo using a vehicle stolen from the area of Yonge and Bantry. During this attack, they beat her viciously, including beating her with a frying pan. They tried to kidnap her then, but a citizen interrupted the attack. During this attack, one of the men recorded the assault. Doesn't that raise some questions? Elnaz was taken to hospital and required around 40 stitches to her head. Police recovered the stolen vehicle, but the assailants had escaped. Stolen vehicles comes up again in this case. Subsequent to this, but police aren't revealing when, the police found another tracking device on Elnaz's vehicle. What possesses these other men to participate in such an attack, to risk everything? When you see a non-relative risking everything, ask yourself, what is their investment here? This story gets more horrific. Traumatized and fearing for her life, Elnaz flees her home and goes to stay with relatives in Wasaga Beach. You would think that moving out of town and living with other people and not ever going out might make you safe, but no. Remember the private investigators? On January 10th and January 11th, 2022, investigators with that company sat outside the home in Wasaga Beach and watched her and reported back to Lilo. This is a whole other conversation, isn't it? The owner of Investigations Plus Limited says he feels bad and claims he was unaware of any link to criminal activity. Yet He also says Lilo told him that Elnaz was a criminal involved in a shooting. This was a lie, by the way.
A female not involved in crime is literally plucked out of her house with violence and nothing's been seen or heard from her in 1 calendar year. That is incredibly rare.
It's a classic move for an abuser to say terrible things about the victim. Elnaz hadn't done anything wrong. She just wanted a normal life. And these criminals decided she couldn't have that. The owner of the investigation company also revealed that Lilo lied to him and that he knew Lilo lied. That's on top of the huge red flag that a woman's ex-boyfriend is having her surveilled. Private investigators should know better. Elnaz was kidnapped on the night of January 12th, 2022. But wait, how could that happen with private investigators watching? Well, in an incredible series of coincidences, on the morning of January 12th, surveillance was called off. Then on the evening of January 12th, the PI who was surveilling the house left at 6:30.
On this day 1 year ago, Elnaz Hajtamiri was taken from a home on Trailwood Place in Wasaga Beach by 3 men who forced themselves into the house, and she has not been seen since that day.
3 armed men wearing police-like gear entered the Trailwood Place Wasaga Beach home and claimed to have an arrest warrant for Elnaz. This was unbelievable. So one of the residents tried to call police. In response, the men grabbed Elnaz, dragged her out of the home into the freezing cold, barefoot and screaming. They threw her into a white Lexus SUV and drove away.
As a reminder, she was abducted by 3 masked males wearing police-type clothing at approximately 8:32 p.m. 1 year ago today exactly, on January the 12th, 2022. As you will see in the video, they fled with Elnaz in a white 2016 to 2022 model Lexus RX350 sport utility vehicle. Someone out there knows the identity of these 3 suspects who were involved in the kidnapping.
She's still missing. 9 days later, Mohammed Lilo was arrested for criminal harassment and released on bail.
On December 20th, 2021, York Regional Police responded to the scene of an underground parking garage in Richmond Hill. We discovered that Elnaz had been the victim of a violent assault by 2 men who brutally attacked her and had attempted to abduct her. As a result of the subsequent investigation, on April 13th, 2022, York Regional Police arrested and charged Riyasat Singh. Riyasat Singh was charged with attempt murder, attempt kidnapping, and property-related offenses. On November 28th, 2022, Singh pleaded guilty to 1 count of aggravated assault and was sentenced to 1 year jail term. He was deported from Canada on December 14th, 2022. Also, in April of 2022, a Canada-wide warrant was issued for a second suspect, a male identified as Harshdeep Binner, in relation to the attack in Richmond Hill.
On April 14th, a warrant was issued for Harshdeep Binner of Brampton for the December 20th incident on the same charges as Singh. Guess where they found him? Edmonton. He was on bail along with 2 other Ontario men for multiple thefts of pickup trucks. These guys were part of a truck theft ring and were using sophisticated technology to defeat anti-theft systems. They were caught by Edmonton police and with the assistance of the RCMP. These trucks were being shipped to Africa and the Middle East. Also, in respect to the December incident, Harjat Sandhu of Brampton was charged with accessory after the fact. He is out on bail. Listen, don't help anyone get away with crime. If you're in a position where you're covering for someone, you've got to find a way out of it.
Together, the OPP and York Regional Police are offering today a $100,000 reward to anyone who has information that will lead to the location of Elnaz. Remember, you can remain anonymous and still receive the reward.
Back to Mr. Lilo. He was arrested in Montreal. He's charged with the attempt kidnapping and attempt murder for the December incident and kidnapping for the kidnapping of Elnaz in January. On December 14th, 2022, he was denied bail. Remember, though, there are 3 more suspects outstanding, and no one knows where Elnaz is. Given their huge web of criminal activity, she could be anywhere in the world. Then there's Lilo's business.
And the shipping container business, how does that complicate the search?
We are aware that Lilo had a company that was involved in shipping containers. The company was called M Solutions. And we are aware, by the nature of the business, he was responsible for the movement of containers and logistics for containers from throughout Canada to all parts of the world.
There's an M Solutions with branches in Brampton and Montreal. Mohamed Lilo has been listed as working for an M Solutions in Windsor, Ontario. Now, I can't verify whether or not it's the same guy, but guess what that business is about? Security. Coincidence, eh? Let's go back to the descriptions of these outstanding perpetrators.
Though the images are limited due to the suspects wearing masks, please, I want you to look closely at their eyes and their features. Someone knows these men. Both of these suspects wore dark jackets over their fake police vests. They had a balaclava with white trim, which they had pulled over their nose and mouth. They had a badge chained around their neck, which appeared to be gold, red, and blue, and they all wore dark pants. The first suspect is described as approximately 6 feet tall, very skinny, lighter black skin with a long, narrow face. Along with the description I mentioned before, he had a thick black belt with an attached handcuff pouch and a holstered black gun with a magazine holder. The gun appeared to have been worn with metal areas exposed. The second suspect is described as approximately 5 feet 9 inches tall with lighter black skin, stocky with skinny legs, and he was wearing white cream shoes with a plastic toe cap, wore cotton black gloves, and was in possession of imitation handcuffs. The third suspect is approximately 5 foot 9 inches tall, lighter coloured skin, possibly Middle Eastern and thin, and it was suspected that he had a firearm in his jacket. Please look carefully at the images shown on the screen beside me. If you suspect you may know any of these men, or recognize them or saw them that night, please contact us. The smallest bit of information, as always, may be able to bring resolution to a family who is distraught and desperate for answers. Elnaz is approximately 160 centimetres or 5 feet 3 tall. She's of slim build and had shoulder length black hair until it had been cut to a shorter length before she was abducted. Everyone out there can help by distributing this message on social media and amongst their own contacts. Please use the hashtag #BringElnaz and help us find her. English, Farsi and Arabic messaging is available at the opp.ca/news under the media kit. If you have any information, you can contact the OPP at 1-888-310-1122 or Crime Stoppers if you wish to remain anonymous. Help us bring resolution to Elnaz's family. Help us bring her home.
These guys were organized and very invested. They spent time, money, effort, traveled to commit the crime, and put themselves at high risk to carry this out. This is much bigger and broader than a controlling ex-boyfriend. Let's go back to the Lexus. They may not be driving it anymore. It could have been shipped out of the country, or it could have been privately sold. Have you purchased a used Lexus SUV in the last year? Crimes have been solved this way before, by finding the involved vehicle even years after it was sold. Let's talk about post-offence behaviour for a second. Do you have an employee or coworker who didn't show up for work on January 12th or January 13th of 2022? Did your neighbor or friend who drives a Lexus SUV suddenly get rid of the vehicle? Did somebody go to trouble to make sure you would be their alibi for January 12th, 2022? Around that time, leading up to and shortly after January 12th, did you notice a change, good or bad, in the behavior of someone in your circle? A lot went into this crime in the weeks prior. Maybe you noticed something off or different, or overheard something and didn't understand what it was about. I joke about ghost offenders, but these three guys are real and people know them. There are lots of reasons why people don't report things. Some people think, oh, it's probably nothing, but it might be. Or, but I don't have proof of anything. It's not your job to prove it. It's the job of these guys. Maybe you think it's too late. It's not too late. Bring Elnaz home. Her family deserves that. Now I want to address anyone who might be involved in some small way, including before or after the kidnapping. Maybe you got roped into helping and couldn't see a way out of it. Maybe you were scared. Maybe you helped without realizing what you were actually helping with, and now you don't know what to do. I'm telling you, the detectives working this thing are relentless. Police services across multiple jurisdictions are working together. It's only a matter of time before the house comes crashing down. If you're trapped between law enforcement and these criminals, it's better for you to get to tell your side of the story first. Guys like the guys who did this horrific thing would cash in their own mothers for some benefit to themselves. That means you are dispensable. Talk to the detectives and get yourself out of this. If you have bigger involvement and you're worried about being in trouble, call a lawyer. You can also give tips anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Elnaz and her family shouldn't have to suffer a single day longer. Save yourself. Spare her family. Do the right thing and be free of this burden. For everyone else, I don't normally ask for shares, but I'm asking. Share the crap out of this. If you don't want to share this one, then share the OPP's press conference. People know these men. Somebody knows a detail that will make all the difference. And make sure you give tips to the police or to Crime Stoppers, not me or anyone else on social media. Sure, you can discuss the case in the comments, but send tips to the dedicated tip line. Or if you want to remain anonymous, you can call Crime Stoppers. I'll leave the final words for Elnaz's mother.
من مادر الناز هاشتمیری هستم. الناز 3 ماه قبل از منزل یکی از اقوام واقع در واساگا بیچ به وسیله 3 نفر که ظاهراً لباس پلیس پوشیده بودند ربوده شده. از اون موقع تا به حال ما هیچ اطلاعی ازش نداریم. اصلا نمیدونیم زنده است یا نه. ما احتیاج به کمکتون داریم. خواهش میکنم ما رو راهنمایی کنید. ما احتیاج به کمک فکریتون داریم. هر اطلاعی دارید لطفاً به پلیس خبر بدید. لطفاً خواهش میکنم به ما کمک کنید. ما روزای سختی رو میگذرونیم. خواهش میکنم هر راهی که امکان داره ما به الناز برسیم. کمک کنید. تمنا میکنم. خواهش میکنم تنهامون نذارید.